Welcome back to BLOCKTV. It's time now for Crypto Crunch with one of the leading voices in the sphere with whom we're lucky enough to chat with every week. Of course, I'm referring to Kerner of Crypto Oracle, the man behind Crypto Mondays. And today, we need an oracle more than ever as the crypto markets have taken a dive straight down and many are left wondering where to next. Firstly, Lou, I'd just like to welcome you back on BLOCKTV.
Hey, Asher, good to be here.
All right, so Lou, kicking things off this week, it's been a day of red, a day of blood. What's your take on it all?
Sure. Well, as we've talked about many times, I'm really looking out, 5, 10, 20-year time frame. Bitcoin, I believe, is going to be markedly higher, and it's going to get there by going up and down and up and down. And if you take that longer time frame, all of this is just noise. So, while I don't pay that much attention to it, it is always interesting to understand exactly what's going on in the marketplace. There was obviously a few things that, I know folks have been talking about with you since, over the last 12 hours since we had this little mini crash. And certainly I think, expectations that BACT was going to have a positive impact. And when that didn't happen, I think that deflated some folks. And then we had the little mini hash crash where, we saw a 30% drop in hashing power, according to the data at least. So I think that sent a lot of jitters, both of those things in the marketplace. That compounded with the fact that lots of folks have massive leverage at BitMEX. And so when you get a little crash, it compounds on itself and you get the big crash that we had. Fundamentally, obviously, nothing has changed in the marketplace.
Yeah, certainly, exactly right. Nothing has fundamentally changed. And I think, you referred to it as a mini crash there. I want you to help, because I know you've got some views that can help put this crash in perspective for some of those people who are in the market now and in the micro are sort of feeling very tense. But put it in perspective for us, Lou. What does this crash really mean?
Well, look, I think there's something called portfolio science, which I write a lot about in terms of how you should invest in any asset class, including Bitcoin. And, you should buy in over time. And, what's interesting, if you look at the data, if you had actually started buying on December 17th, 2017, when Bitcoin was at its highest price ever, and you stack sats, which means every single day you bought $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, you'd have invested $647,000 in Bitcoin. And even though you started buying at the top, you'd still be up $212,000 because Bitcoin spent a lot of time in that, 3,500, 4,500 range. And so, for anybody who's interested in getting into Bitcoin, just buy, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, on a regular basis. And in fact, over time, these mini crashes will actually help you because it gives you opportunity to average down in your cost.
It's an amazing piece of perspective, that sort of data right there. For those who feel like they've missed out on those opportunities, it's already too late for them. That there is still, the data shows chances for them to get back into the game. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the specific elements and narratives that are running through this. You touched on the BACT story just there. So many views. Some say the BACT is a highway that has been built, and you need to wait for those to be ready to use it. Others say that this failure to launch, as it were, is a sign that institutions simply aren't ready to get into the crypto space. What's your take, Lou? How do you interpret all this?
Look, I still think Bitcoin is very complex for most people to understand and appreciate what it is. Every day, I think it gets a little brighter. It's still very dim. And, obviously, institutional investors broadly just don't appreciate what Bitcoin is. And to some degree, it's still such a small asset that it's not really worthwhile for most major money managers that take the time to understand it. But over time, as it continues to grow, as its market cap continues to grow, as it becomes a little brighter and easier to understand, we'll start to see institutional involvement. Whether that's a week, a month, or 5 years, nobody knows, but it's coming. And the only way to get the timing right, again, is to stack sats. So when it comes, you'll be nicely invested.
Yeah, certainly, it's probably advice, again, that bit of perspective that needs to be put down. But all right, obviously, the The price movement is not the only story for today, and there are other elements that affect it and play into the narratives. So let's break through some of those as well. We've had some interesting developments in the Kik case. Kik shutting down their messaging app, and their CEO drunkenly threatening to quit. Unfortunately, sending those to the wrong people. What do you make of all this, Lou? It just seems like a hot mess.
It's for anybody who wants to comply with the U.S. regulations, it's a slog. And that's why, we're seeing a lot of companies just disregard the U.S. market, not participate in what's going on here. And Kik is having that problem now. They're in the fight with the SEC. And it's hard enough to run a business, but running a business and fighting with the SEC is too much for most companies to really be able to succeed.
Yeah, but certainly they seem to not only be not succeeding in some ways, but really going down in wild fashion. I mean, it's quite unbelievable, those drunken texts being sent out by a CEO. That seems a step above and beyond, potentially reputationally not very good for the company itself, and perhaps in some ways for the sphere as a whole.
Yeah, well, obviously everybody should refrain from tweeting when they're drunk. Obviously emotions come out, and I feel bad for the guy. I'm sure it's been just a horrible slog. That wasn't what he signed up for, but that's where they find themselves today.
Yeah, certainly, it's a tough place to be. Now, moving on to other news in the sphere, we had the SEC, the full commissioner of set of five commissioners of the SEC sitting before a congressional hearing yesterday. What wild headlines that came out of that in relation to the crypto sphere, but there was touch on elements and talked about elements about Libra, about the SEC's approach to how they're going to move forward. And then, of course, we had the Wilshire Phoenix ETF being delayed afterwards. What's your take on all this, Lou?
Again, it's hard to understand exactly what it is that the SEC is trying to solve for. They're trying to protect investors, and on the other hand, they're trying not to slow down on innovation. And obviously, for anybody sitting here, it really feels like they're weighing the protection of investors far more than they are not slowing innovation, because innovation is really coming to a halt here in the U.S., and it's very sad.
It seems to be a pervasive narrative. Even listening to Hester Peirce, crypto mum, she even had a sort of tentative tone, I guess I'd say, maybe with the full commission there in front of her and in front of Congress, saying that while she wants to promote innovation, that certain things still need to be worked out. It's perhaps not so bullish for the crypto markets there in the US, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, again, even just like with BACT, I think even if we did get an ETF, would it be positive? Sure. Is it going to be the thing that turns the market around? I don't think so. It's rarely the thing that everybody's talking about that actually has the impact that people want it to have. So, at the margin, would it be positive? Sure. But, even without a favorable regulatory environment in the U.S., for a long time, there's no reason why the crypto market shouldn't continue to be able to evolve elsewhere around the world and generate incredible wealth.
Certainly, it's an unstoppable force, whether regulated in the US or not. And now, Lou, you've as well recently returned from a bit of a grand tour, as it were, and you wrote a fascinating blog post. I thoroughly enjoyed it myself. 7 thoughts following 14 days at the center of the crypto universe. For those who haven't yet had a chance to read through the piece itself, give us a little summary of your thoughts from around the crypto world.
Sure. I think there are 2 broad things going on that just the trip confirmed to me. I spent a week in Asia and a week in Tel Aviv. And in fact, what we saw was continued growth of speculation in Asia. That's really the first killer app of crypto, is speculation in Asia, and it's going up and to the right. And in fact, that's what helped, as I mentioned earlier, I think cause the mini crash that we had, because we've got all of this leverage. And so when you get a small crash, it tends to accentuate that crash when you have all the leverage that you do in crypto today. And then the other thing is the Web3, is the decentralized future that we all believe is coming, and that we all believe is going to make the world a better place. But still, nothing is really scaling in that area yet. So still, a lot of work being done, a lot of amazing science experiments going on, but as of yet, nothing really scaling.
And something I want to ask as well, because there are a lot of people out there in the crypto sphere who don't necessarily get the opportunity to get there into the center of what's happening and actually meet people face to face and see what's going on. As someone who's just had that opportunity in droves, what's your take on the status of the energy, the vibe, the sort of feeling from individuals in the sphere, getting that chance to talk to people on so many levels? What's your main takeaways?
Sure. Look, I mean, that's a great question. The thing that continues to amaze me is the quality of the people that continue to leave the Goldman Sachs and McKinseys of the world and, the best jobs in the world to come to crypto because they do see the opportunity to create tremendous wealth and make the world a better place. And in Asia, it still has the feeling of what it was like here in the U.S. in 2017. And while the Paul is still here, I'm not sure it ever really came to Asia because there's still so much money being made in speculation. And in Tel Aviv also, it was incredibly exciting. The Ethereal conference here, many said it was the best crypto conference in the history of Israel, to have guys like Vitalik and Joe Lubin there. And again, it was, incredibly positive vibe, a lot more Web3 there than speculation. And even though nothing's scaling yet, there's, a lot of learnings going on and the belief that this is all coming and that we're making good progress.
Certainly, there's a lot of enthusiasm. I got to share that part of the journey with you myself, and it did. I would agree with your sentiment. There was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of development, a lot of exciting stuff happened in the sphere. So I suppose the takeaway from all this, Lou, might be a day of red, but in the longer term, the market seems strong. We just got to hold out, keep that bit of perspective, right?
Exactly. In the long run, this is just noise. And if Bitcoin's 100,000 in 5 years, nobody will remember what happened yesterday.
Certainly right. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Lou Kerner of Crypto Oracle, for giving us some of your insights on the market today, giving us that dose of perspective that perhaps the markets sorely need on a day like this. Thanks so much for joining us, Lou, and stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news, information, and the best of analysis. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.